My husband John and I were standing in the kitchen of our home in East Lansing, Michigan, in March of 2007, when our lives changed forever. John and I had been discussing the fact that it did not seem like I would ever be able to leave to coach another women's basketball team. Because my Michigan State contract was quite restrictive, it did not appear that there was any chance we could ever leave the state, or that I'd have the freedom to work anywhere else. Being in a place where you want to be forever is one thing. However, being told you can never leave that place is another matter entirely. John and I were confused and physically tired after the unsuccessful contract negotiations. We felt that we had made a tremendous effort to try to find a solution and had finally come to the conclusion that we were going to respect what we could not control and make the best of it. We were rationalizing by focusing on the fact that we loved our neighbors, we loved the town of East Lansing, and we had an incredible team with players I loved who were returning to school. John truly thought I was meant to coach that team, so we had come to the conclusion that perhaps a move just wasn't in the cards or something we could control at that time. I was upbeat and excited to move forward. We really had come full circle. Interestingly, there was a calm peace about our conversation that day. We had stood up for our principles relative to our large buyout, and we felt good about our attempt to make things better and right. Since we had completed 7 great years there, we felt we had earned such freedom and overall support. We literally were in the middle of contemplating our situation when the discussion was interrupted by a telephone call from Jackie Sylar, the longtime administrator of women's sports at Duke. Jackie had been an assistant coach on the women's basketball team when Duke was recruiting me as a player in high school. Since I had spoken to her all those years ago, it felt like a long-lost friend calling. And yet again, she was calling with an invitation to ask me if I had any interest in becoming the women's basketball coach at Duke, a job which had recently become vacant. If I had been sitting down, I would have fallen out of my chair. The timing of the call was as overwhelming as the prospect of coaching at Duke. I was as excited as I had ever been. It almost felt divine. John and I actually started laughing, since we could not believe the timing. Of course, John had no idea who I was talking to when I answered the phone, despite the fact that I was pointing to the phone and mouthing the words, "Duke, Duke." He was shaking his head back and forth with a big smile on his face. It was not a long conversation. Jackie just wanted to know if I would be interested in the job. Though I thought about my Michigan State players, I convinced myself that they would be better off without me and might benefit from having a different coach. I wondered if I could be as productive with administrators at the school and whether everybody's relationships could heal. I knew that my spirit was damaged and that those feelings could potentially be passed on to my players. Coaches are only as good as their own health and the support around them. If you don't feel comfortable in the situation you're in, then it's tough, almost impossible, to be an effective coach. I had pushed the envelope so far, I didn't know if it could heal properly. I knew that if that didn't happen, the players would get hurt in the long run. The kids were never the reason I wanted to leave. In fact, I knew that we were leaving a gold mine, and potentially my second Final Four team. As far as I was concerned, it had to do with taking responsibility as a leader. I knew that I had gotten into a not-so-positive contractual situation. I also knew that healing definitely needed to take place, and I worried whether this was compromising my players in any way. It was a classic case of a parent wanting to protect her kids. With this weighing on my mind, another opportunity surfaced. So I thought maybe this was what was meant to be. I needed to leave so the players could enjoy a new coach with no contractual or relationship issues.